So I'm gonna need a confession booth mesh placed over me or something because I have a confession to make in a very, very long time, right? I haven't done this in a very long time, but it happened yesterday. I read a fanfiction. That's it. That's the confession. I read a fanfiction. Now, when it comes to me in fanfiction, I'm I have a very weird relationship with fanfictions, all right? Because I really got into fanfiction back in 4th grade, right? It's the thing that got me to start writing in the first place. And, you know, in the end, fanfiction always holds that place for me because that's the initial place where I really got into writing. And if you guys want to know what I got into, it was the Naruto stuff, all right, dude. I was a fucking Sasori x Sakura shipper back in the day, dude. Like, it made absolutely no sense. No sense at all. Like, that was during the time when Shippuden came out, right? So those episodes were really fresh in my head because the Sakura and Sasori fight were pretty much like in the beginning of the series. And for some reason, the fucking ship stuff like took off. There was a lot of ship stuff there. I wrote my own fanfiction about Sasori and Sakura, and it's still up there somewhere. That's my deep dark secret out there, dude. Hidden away in the internet. But after I got past the whole fanfiction stuff and actually starting to write more original work, I started to not like fanfiction as much because, you know, you're just kind of taking other people's work and like doing all that stuff. So I kind of held that viewpoint of fanfiction for a bit, you know. By a bit, I mean for like the majority of my school years. And then afterwards, as I, you know, begin growing older and whatever, I started to think about like, you know, like if people want to write fanfiction, that's their whole point, right? That's the whole idea of fanfiction, is that sometimes there's not a satisfactory conclusion, or you just have a ship and you want to write about them, and like that's totally fine, you know, as long as like the author is totally fine with it and whatnot. I just didn't want to be a part in that, you know. I just didn't want to write fan fiction or anything, and also because I just don't feel confident enough to write fan fiction, you know. Like I feel like I can see a character and I know what they are and like who they are, but like to actually translate that from my brain to my fingertips and like having to write it out in words, I don't have the confidence in that, so I don't really write fan fictions. But, you know, overall, I hadn't really read a fan fiction since like high school years, because the last fan fiction I read was a Glee fan fiction that a classmate of mine had recommended to me because, you know, it was gay. I didn't know any of the characters in Glee. I didn't even watch Glee, but I read a good amount of chapters for that one, and goddamn, that one was going on for way too fucking long. If there's one thing that I gotta commend fanfiction writers, is that when they really get into a story that they really enjoy, they can write forever. Like, I've seen fanfictions that's been going on for years. It has over like 400,000 words and shit, and I'm just like, bro, this is like, these people are just writing One Piece out here. It's so freaking long. And I have seen people who make like 6K a month writing Pokemon fanfiction. Like, that shit is wild, dude. Like, if you know how to do that, like, I feel like fanfiction is a rather lucrative business. Sorry, the business has corrupted me. All I think about is how can I make money. Hey yo, the fanfiction strategy is pretty good. But sorry, I went on a little bit of a rant about fanfictions, but if you guys want to know what the fanfiction that I read yesterday, I finished it this morning. Like, I literally woke up and I was just like, you know, I got a few more chapters to go, so I just started reading it in my bed, you know, just going through the whole thing, and, you know, got a few tears out of me. But I definitely think it when it comes to like that emotional aspect, it definitely comes from the show itself and how emotional that show. Okay, all right. I don't know why I've been keeping this in the hidden spot. All right, I was reading an Avatar fanfiction. All right, it was an Avatar: The Last Airbender. It wasn't actually a Korra one, surprisingly enough, but it was a Ty Lee and Azula fanfiction. It was a Ty Zula. That was their ship name. And like, I don't even ship these people, so I'm like, why the fuck did I read this? It's called Blue Fire, by the way. But yeah, I went through that whole thing, and I said that this story has like 80k words, and like I was looking at the time it was published and the time where it's completed, so it took them like a total of 5 months to write 80,000 words, and I'm just gonna be like, man, wish that was me. I really wish that was me. I wish I could fucking write on and on without like stopping or anything. But then again, a lot of their stuff, especially in the beginning chapters, is pretty much like a retelling of the entire of the entire Avatar: The Last Airbender story, except it's just going from Azula's side of the story. And consider that it's a fan fiction and it's a shipping stuff, you know. Of course there's going to be some raunchy stuff in it, like the amount of tags that just has sex in it, I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? Because I'm just like, how are they gonna do this? Because these two are like, they are not, you know, they are not of age, that is for sure. And you know how the fucking fanfics, god, this happens every time where like the people want to write something raunchy, but like they know that they shouldn't because, you know, these are kids and not adults. So, like, their genius plan is, like, what if we just turned them 18, you know? Once they hit that age of consent, it's free real estate. So, like, I don't know, I still don't know how I feel about that part, especially whenever they get into, like, the actual romance stuff, because, funny enough, I actually like the fanfiction when it's, like, retelling the story through Azula, and, you know, like, I do like the initial attraction between Azula and Ty Lee. Why am I talking? Oh, in the fanfiction, alright, not in the show. I like that initial attraction and everything, but, like, the moment... Okay, so the way that they changed this is that, when Zuko got kicked out, it didn't take him 3 years to find the Avatar. It actually took him, like, way further, like 5 years or something. So, like, Azula was 13 at the time, so 5 years later she was 18, and that was when Fire Lord Ozai told her to go out and find Zuko, right? Imprison him and whatnot, and then she ends up recruiting Mai and Ty Lee again, but they're all... they're all of age now. So again, it's free real estate out there. And I'm just, and like, okay, like, the thing with the writing is that it's, some parts, there's some, like, really good lines, or, like, I really enjoy those lines, but for the most part, it's, like, very show and not tell, and I think that fanfiction have a lot of leverage on that, because the people who are reading these fanfictions, they should already know the character, they should already know the world, so if you leave out some of these details, doesn't really matter as much, because the readers will be able to pick up on it, so despite it being a lot of show and don't tell, it being a lot of telling and not showing, it didn't really rub me all that right, I mean, all that wrong. Because, again, you know, I can just fill in the blank, unlike if it was, like, an original story or something, right? Or I'm gonna need you to fill in those holes for me eventually. I do think that they got the dialogue down, for the most part, in the way that Azula talks and the way that Ty Lee talks. I think it's really easy to reciprocate what Mai is saying. Replicate, I mean, to what Mai's dialogue and whatnot. But man, there are some typos in there that last throughout the entire story, or most of the story. I feel like it might have been throughout the entire story. Where, like, instead of they write sigh, they write sight. So then, like, instead of saying she sighed, it's she cited. And I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? And yeah, I'm so used to going through a lot of typos that, like, my brain just fixes it for me, you know? Like, there's a part where, like, instead of writing she, they wrote he instead. I'm just like, oh, I think they're talking about Azula or something. And then there's, like, a bunch of other stuff where, because they're writing it in third person and there's, like, a lot of female characters, some of their, like, pronouns and the way that they write, it didn't really connect to, like, the character that they wanted to talk about initially, or at least, like, when I first saw the sentence, I have to, like, think about it, and I'm just like, oh, like, the pronoun that they're putting here, that is supposed to be Azula. You know, like, she. It's just like, who is she that they're referring to? There's, like, multiple she's in the scene. Yeah, oh yeah, and there's, like, also some parts of the story where it really just felt like like, okay. There's a scene where, like, Azula and Ty Lee are talking with each other, you know, maybe having a little intimate moment and all that. And then suddenly it showcases that Zuko and Mai was also there too. And I'm just over like, does that mean that they were just watching each other? Well, I don't know. But I can't remember what I said about the AEK word, if I said anything about it, because I did say that I wish I could write that, but a lot of it is a retelling, and like a lot of it, especially like with the dialogue, when they get to the point where it is the scene in the anime, the cartoon, the show, the writer just took the dialogue from the show and then just put it right onto the story, which again, right, to showcase that this is what came out of what came out from the show. But there's like a good chunk of that because again, the beginning is a lot of retelling of Azula's side of the story. And so it kind of makes me wonder if like it's like 25% of the writing is actually just from the show. Like either dialogues from the show or it's just a retelling of the show. Maybe 25, that's me being generous, but like I do feel it a little bit more like 50%. Again, I feel like I'm giving the 25% because I'm just trying to be generous because I don't really have like a big problem with this fan fiction. Again, I think that in terms of the way that they decided to weave the story and make it feel like it's a part of the Avatar world, I can sort of see it. But the thing that really fall flat is just like the amount of fucking sex they've been having. Like, Jesus Christ, dog. Like, what the hell's going on here? And like I really like the initial part of their attraction. But then like once they do the kissing, right? And then they just get right into the schmecks. The next thing you know, it's just that. And I'm just like, I'm fucking tired, alright? I'm fucking bored and tired. I don't care about this. You know, I'll tell you about the part that I really liked, which is the initial, not like the first contact that they make in terms of like romantic stuff or whatever, you know? Oh yeah, and okay, actually, let me say this first before I say something else about the writing. But this part where it was based on the Ember Island episode, so season 3, episode 5, and this was after Azula got a kiss from Chad. Is that what his name is? Whatever that guy is, you know, she was like trying to flirt with him and like she was following Ty Lee's advice of just laugh at his jokes. And so she did that, she kissed him, and then, you know, she did the whole, we'll fucking rule the world together, and then he ran away. So she's sad, and Ty Lee, you know, wanting to make sure that she wanted to see what Azula did, or that might be wrong, or how the guy reacted that might be wrong, so she takes her to the bathroom, the makeup room, it was the bathroom, the restroom, I mean. And so she told Azula to reenact what had happened, right? And so I was like, I like that. I like that concept on how, like, this is how they're going to do the initial contact, where Azula goes through what she did with the guy, and then, you know, she kissed him, and so she plays that out. She kisses Ty Lee, and I'm just like, again, I like that. And then suddenly they're just full-blown making out in the fucking bathroom, and I'm just like, what the fuck? I'm just like, you know what? If that's what y'all want to do, making out in the bathroom, you do you know? But, my god. Anyways. The writing. So, there's the writing. So, the writer, for some reason, really wants to put in at least one fuck in, like, every other chapter. Or in every chapter towards the end. For some reason. And like, look, as a person who curses, you know, as a person who says a lot of fucks, got a lot of fucks to give, unfortunately, I don't think it's all that great to have it in the writing. That's just me, though, you know, like, I know at the very least in terms of dialogue and story writing, you know, you don't want to have too many fucking curses. But the writer just really wanted to add in the word fuck in there sometimes. And every time I see it, it just really looks like a kid who is like really excited to say it, to write it in their story. Like, tee, I'm saying the F word. Because they don't say any other curse words. The only curse word that they'll ever fucking say is the word fuck And I'm just like, alright, there's so many other curse words out there, alright? You don't have to just say the word fuck all the time. Although they use the word fuck as a emphasis, you know? Like, she felt really fucking great. Like, that's how the dialogue was. And I'm just like, you know, you could just take out the fucking part and, like, just say she felt really great. Like, that's still fine. I mean, you could probably make that a little bit more eloquent and whatnot. But, like... yeah, like, the constant amount of, like, there has to be at least one fuck in the chapter. And again, I'm not even a Tai Yi or a Zula shipper. Why did I read this? Like, I can see in terms of, like, you know, a Yuri relationship, a girl love relationship and all that. I can see that that's how they are, you know, that Azula would be, like, the darker one. The evil bitch or whatever, and then Tylee is like the happy-go-lucky, very positive, you know, her aura and all that. I can see how that could be a couple, you know, the whole opposites attract and all that, but I just don't believe it. I don't know, I just don't believe it. Maybe I'd have to, like, read a comic about, or a story about, like, the aftermath of Azula, because I still don't know particularly, like, what happened after, and I feel like I would believe Avatar had the same thing as Korra, right, where they have comics that continued afterwards. I may have to look. Oh yeah, one of the other things that I really enjoyed about the the writer in the writing is that it really felt like they are very much encompassed in the Avatar world. Like, they'll mention some things that's, like, from the comics and all that, and I thought that was really nice. Or at least something that they've read off of the wiki, whichever one, you know? So I thought that they, you know, certainly did their research and doing all these stuff and whatnot. So again, overall, I thought it was an enjoyable experience. I probably wouldn't read it again, because, like I said, a little bit too much sex for me. It's really fucking boring. The sex part, I mean, but, like, everything else, I think it was pretty nice. It was pretty good. But again, a lot of telling and not showing, and, okay, like, at some point, like, even the way that I started reading, the way that they write kind of felt like the way that I wrote back in 4th grade when I was writing fan fictions. So whenever I see somebody write like that, I'm over here thinking, like, how old are they? And they're writing smut? Like, hopefully they are also of age? I mean, they have the idea that they should make the other person of age. So, like, they should be a person who is of age writing this, right? So, so I'm just over like, okay, you know. Again, this is, well, it's not again, actually. It's one primary reason why I don't particularly, enjoy reading fan fictions as much. Some people just don't know how to keep it to themselves sometimes, you know? Like, I feel like the whole thing about eroticas and stuff, you know, it's the build-up, it's the tension, and then the release, and then, like, that's great, you know? And then after that, it ends. Instead of, like, it just keeps going. But, again, there's, like, still other plotline and stuff, but, like, my god, dude, again, the amount of... I don't even want to bother anymore. Sorry if I'm repeating this, but I feel like I didn't say it. I just said it in my head. I'm not a big shipper. I like Yuri, I like romance and all that, you know, I'm always enjoying, like, a little romance aspect in shows and whatnot. I know some people like, oh, I don't want romance and all that, but, like, I don't really mind as much. But I'm not a big shipper, unless they are, like, you know, the OTP or whatever, you know, like they are the pair that the show shows, and, like, that they are going to become a pair, or that they are interested in each other. You know, I'm usually just the person who's like, if I see that couple, like, maybe I like them, that's fine, but, like, I'm not gonna, like, ship two characters who may not have a chance of actually becoming, of having a relationship and all that. Again, not really a big shipper. I don't even know the last ship that I really enjoyed that isn't canon. Alright, because I was thinking about Korra and Asami, but, like, they're canon, so, like, I'm not particularly fond of shipping characters that aren't canon, like non-canonical ships and all that. Not really into that. Anyways, I've been standing here rambling about fan fiction for the past 20 minutes, so